afternoon, Barrister, and then it's good to have you in the studio with us today. And we want to thank you for being one of the few consistent voices that has been speaking up about anti-graft activities of the federal government of late. We want to begin by asking you to evaluate so far the anti-graft war in Nigeria, especially as commenced on by the Buhari administration.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me once more. I want to believe that as a person, Buhari has, been trying, but maybe as a collegiate or as a body is kind of questionable to an extent. So, except he rejigs his cabinet and immediate friendship, so to say, we are kind of cast assumption on how he stands. But as far as we are concerned, that appears to be the bedrock of the administration, and he's been doing it, he's been consistent, and but we are not satisfied, though there are areas, like I said, he can really put, some changes and rejig his cabinet.
Not being satisfied could mean that there are still some flaws, which specifically we would like to explore here. What specific flaws can you pick, and especially as somebody who's one of the very versatile and vibrant lawyers in Nigeria, especially chairperson of the Patriotic League of Lawyers?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Well, let me take it from what is contemporary, like the Maina Gate, which is presently trendy. You discovered that the hunters in Maina's Gate, they have turned to the hunted. When I say the hunters, it tends to reason that you know what I'm talking about. Talk of the woman Amazon who has appeared to be, who is apparently the heroine in that whole staccado or saga. That's Mrs. Eyoeta, who stood, her grounds. He refused compromise and demanded justice. When the so-called letter asking that she should reintegrate fugitive offender Abdulrasheed Maina, she objected. I'm sure you also saw the shouting bout that took place in the Executive Council. You also see that, you also discover that even Ribadu, I'm sorry, that's a slip of tongue, Ibrahim Magu, who actually came out also to say that Maina was still on the list of wanted men. He's also been haunted. They are now waiving the issue of confirmation or lack of it. And recently, even Femi Falana, who was actually the first, person, so to say, to really shout at his, characteristic best that Maina's issue should not be swept across the carpet. Our Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice has come out to say that, he's one of those who bought, one of Lagos lawyer, so to say, who bought property, from the Maina story, so to say. And one begins to wonder how this is playing out. You will realize that, Maina was, brought back to the country, if we are to take the submission of, of Honorable Attorney General, Minister of Justice, on the basis of a warrant he said has been kicked out by court. One wonders why, as the Federal Attorney General, he did not deem it necessary to appeal that warrant of arrest if he actually believes in the anti-corruption crusade of Buhari, because time does not operate against the state in criminal prosecution. And again, one of the lacuna, we also saw in his presentation before House of Rep, in their public hearing, is that the letter, reabsorbing Maina into the civil service did not emanate from him. It emanated from, somebody in his ministry. So the League is always asking why that person has not been indicted, why that person has not been named and shamed. So our own concern is that we are actually flabbergasted that the Attorney General is now becoming a pacifier or justifying chief of Maina. That's why today's daily, if you were able to read our papers, we are calling for his resignation, or where he fails to resign, the president should find it worthy to kick him out if his anti-corruption mantra is to be taken seriously. Something
to go by. And then, so that makes us wonder, if you accuse the Attorney General of not up and doing with his own duties, what does it speak of the entire judicial system itself? What's your impression of the criminal justice system in Nigeria?
Yeah, is very challenging. I cannot say because of the infraction of a single individual, you know, we should throw the entire system away. But I must say that you know, the criminal justice system is being challenged. You know, only recently, I was coming from you know, Egbeda, I saw some people, you know, they held onto, you know, a man furiously, and they were trying to douse him with petrol. Under the platform, under the guise that you know, he was a thief. That shows you that the people are becoming increasingly agitated, or they've lost confidence in our civil society and all that. You know, a position whereby, you know, you have you know, a big man, whether the big man is a senator, is a Supreme Court judge or whatever, you know, goes to court, and you have an assemblage of about 49 senior advocates of Nigeria, trying to intimidate the judiciary into submission, you know, tends to show that, you know, this kind of Okada rider mentality. When you hit an Okada driver, you know, they assemble around you to intimidate you, you know, the overpower of volition without convincing your decision is quite disturbing. That is why, you know, the civil rights will come again together and really put their feet on the ground and tell the government that they do not believe in what is happening. We are living in a very dangerous peril and all that. If I may once again mention the issue of reference to a legal lawyer, you know, apparently the minister of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice was in apparent reference to Femi Falana. Falana was called to bar in 1982. Stands to reason that even 3/4 of the National Assembly members are his junior. A man who has worked for 35 years is entitled to retire this year. If he even bought, assuming, but not considered, he even bought a distressed property. I wonder why that should be, you know, a key stand for the Minister of Justice to take over. I watched his demeanor and his presentation before the National Assembly, and indeed he reminded me of the Chinese 8th century minister who was said to have had dagger concealed in his heart, yet honey dripping from his lips, you know, indicting and all that. We know why all this thing is coming about, and we are not only surprised. The same fate, you know, the forerunner of the civil rights group, Gani Fawemi, passed through. You remember the very first matter that brought him to preeminence, Obeya's case, and other civil rights thing that he engaged in, was accused of gun running, was accused of a coup and all that. So we know where we are going to and all that. It's unfortunate that Nigeria is a theater of the absurd. It is wherein the absurd takes place. So that's what we are facing. The hunter is now becoming the hunted in our quest for social justice. Even
though the head of the ship right now is supposed to be somebody who is fighting corruption. Yeah. You know, you began by appreciating President Buhari for personally having the attitude to fight corruption. Yeah. But then with the old things that are happening right now, are you still impressed? Do you think this is not looking like, you know, there's cover for them from the presidency? Do you not think that there's cover for them from the presidency? Most of this, especially you see, it's not the first time corruption cases have been, you know, unraveled under President Buhari's nose. But then it always looks as if there is no will, political will, to even fight these things. So are you still impressed that President Buhari's administration is actually genuine about this thing? Well, called anti-corruption or anti-graft war?
Well, we are beginning to see this from spectacles of you know, wait and see, spectacles of disillusionment. So until this you know, this fugitive offender from Justice Maina's case, you know, takes his you know, proper position, you know, we will not be able to, because it's still ongoing and there are other cases in the court, and I think it still has about 2 more years to go. So if we can really you know, we show determination as it did in you know, in the case of the NIA, Director General, OK, and others, so we'll probably give him kudos. But if he decides to, because this is the main plank that supports his administration, anti-corruption, if he decides to slip on his rights and say, these are members of my inner cabinet, I'm not going to pull the whip, then people become reluctant, and we'll start to question the reason why he should be supported in the coming election, that is 2019.
You know, over Maina, you already said that, you know, you're calling for sack.
Yes.
of the Attorney General.
Yes.
What's the basis? What about other corruption cases that, I mean, even before Maina, you know, you had the Abakari gates there. There are so many gates as we speak right now. So why isolate the Attorney General and ask for his sack? What about others?
Yes. Well, this is, like I told you, this is the ongoing case that has been so manifest, that has been so apparent to even the blind. You discover that, you know, if you look at the section, you know, the Attorney General, you know, had before National Assembly, it was virtually stealing the virtues of Maina. It was short of calling a Maina to come back and aid the government in recovery, you know, pension scheme scam. You know, it was also calling on, you know, people that are not too connected to this scam to be punished. Like I was saying, you know, the country is a country of very absurd. You will discover that we have had this thing, not even in this administration, even from independence. The best way to win accolades, attention in Nigeria, is if you oppress or repress the people. And if you are seen to be too verbose or paramount in taking the people's case or taking the stand or the gauntlet on behalf of the people, you will be put down. You know, so that is exactly what we have been having in
put down exactly by who? Because it's looking like it's the structure against the people.
Yeah.
Put down by who exactly?
Yeah, all these things comes to, you know, the issue of class struggle. Class struggle. You know, this class struggle manifests itself in all forms. In mathematics, we call it the negative positive sign. In chemistry, we call it the association and disassociation of atoms. In law, we call it the plaintiff-defendant concept. In social sciences, we call it class struggle. This class struggle is an attempt, or rather a kind of policy in which those people, they want to dominate the present. In fact, they want to blood the past, dominate the present, and even usurp the future. And they will come out with whatever you like. They have a lot of resources to overwhelm the judiciary. They have a lot of resources to win elections. They have a lot of resources to even blackmail those people that are even pregnant and too vivacious in fighting for the wretched of the earth. So until this class struggle is challenged effectively, we continue to have all this miasma of confusion, whereby the pregnant enemy does much. You know, so we're calling on the people, you know, people who are, you know, civil rights, you know, people who are, you know, they fighting for the wretched of the earth, because at the next level, we believe, quite frankly, that there's an option to what Fela will call poverty, hunger, and disease. We crusade for that alternative. We believe, quite frankly, that there's an alternative to people, you know, keeping money, the homologous money in warehouses and all that. We actually stand for that alternative. We also crusade for, you know, people becoming homeless, people becoming going about without food, and we crusade for that alternative. And in crusading for that alternative, we really know that we will confront members of the ruling class. They are trying to take a position in this miasma of class struggle.
Let me just narrow it back to, you know, your demand for the sack, or your recommendation for the sack of the Attorney General.
Yes.
How will this open the, I mean, how does this resolve the minor gates if he is sacked?
Yeah, if, you know, he's going to send a signal to Mr. President that we are not happy with the turn of events when the hunters have become the hunted. Who are the hunters, if you may care to ask? People like Mrs. Yoeta, who were virtually shouting down, you know, when they had an executive section. People like Magu, who has been threatened that he would not be confirmed because he had the temerity to actually say that Maina was still on his wanted list. People like Femi Falana, who was amongst the very few that called for investigation into Maina's case, and people involved should be brought to book. So this is exactly what we are asking, you know, the government to come about and do. And if he's actually sticking to the mantra of, you know, anti-corruption crusade, should be able to listen not only to the league's voice, but to the voice of the people. And it was the voice of the people that brought him into power. And if he wants to retain, you understand he's contesting in 2019, if he wants to retain the confidence of the people, he should try and kick the Attorney General out and not more pretentious.
And if your advice or recommendation is not heeded, like if he is not sacked, do you see other alternatives, this minor gate and other corruption cases can be resolved?
Yes, we will now start to reappraise our support for the administration. We now start to reappraise and indeed look for an option, because even at the leagues level, we actually believe that, we need a younger person to take over the mantle of leadership come 2019. We are looking at that option, and we believe, quite frankly, in my opinion, God still be no disputadium. In matters of opinion, there can be no dispute, that even the President Buhari and the man who is ostensibly believed to would take the ticket for PDP, Atiku, will be too old by 2019. So we'll be looking for a younger person that will take over the mantle of leadership. Even if that younger person is going to come from ABGA, it's going to come from the Labour Party, it doesn't matter. But it will be seen that we have done our best, because the penalty for not coming out to speak your voice is that you allow, people that are not vibrant to take over the mantle of leadership. Lots of, will say that tomorrow and indeed the future will have no pity for those people. They have the exceptional privilege of each actually being able to talk to their oppressors. They are taking refuge in an attitude of passivity, mute indifference, and sometimes of cold complicity. So it will not be heard that we have not spoken, but it will be recorded in history that we have spoken, but just that our voice has been muffled by the stronger voices of those people that are very powerful but unpopular. So again, the battle is actually between two, class, like I was telling you about. You have the very powerful group, represented by Senate leadership, executive leadership, and members of the judiciary. And you have the other group represented by popular but powerless, because they do not have the wherewithal to really ensure that what they believe in, has not come to place. But we still start fighting. We are not ready to go to Libya as refugees. So we'll keep advising and keep talking until they will hear our voice.
So if President Muhammadu Buhari is contesting again in 2019, are you basing your support of his candidacy on whether he sacks the Attorney General and resolves the minor gate? I just want to get that portion clear.
Well, in history, there's no monocausal explanation for any historical event that takes place. That is going to be part of it, so you cannot really tie it to one monocausal thing. But if you can really clean your genes table, like when he came out, when he had a minor was reabsorbed into the civil service, the speed and dispatch with which he ordered that minor be sent away, gave him some support and accolade, and that one again raised his estimation in the minds of right-thinking members of the society. So you should do more things. You should clean your genes table. All those people that surround him, they will call it the cabal. Not only Abubakar Malami, the entire cabal should be asked to take a bow. If he wants this mantra, the anti-corruption mantra, to be his solemn voice in 2019, he should be able to clean the entire stable.
Now, if you really want to make it very, place the two sides side by side and then see clearly, are you simply saying that we can sacrifice the not too young to run agitation or crusade for Buhari if he clears that table? So, or would you say whether he clears it or not, he's already too old by 2019 and a younger person should take over?
Yes.
What would be your position exactly? Yes,
this is a kind of the thesis is simply this is a kind of thesis and antithesis. The thesis is that the present president, so to say, is Buhari. If he's able to clean your gist table, probably we'll still, like we supported him before, we'll still queue behind him. But if he's not able to do this and we are not satisfied with the economy, with the anti-corruption thing, with the insurgency upsurge, then we'll look for a viable alternative in the youth, no matter who source it got. Happily enough, Papa Yabo has also said that if a youth comes out, to contest, he would rally around the youth. So we are calling on those of us that can really come out. In my group, we have a lot of them. You have even the Ozekomes, the Femi Falanas, the Rezonobrak players, the Dr. Hioge Dausa. We call all of them to come out and put their heart into the ring so that we can support them. Because the penalty for not coming out is that we'll be governed by general-autocrats, that is old men, by Nikompu, by people that are not worthy of defending or actualizing your objective. So you should come out. Penalty for not coming out is that you'll be governed by people you do not like.
All right, in rounding off, I just want to see whether we have been talking about the Attorney General, for instance, yes, and then whether his sack is going to, clear the space for anti-corruption to, stage the game higher. But then, what about the League of Lawyers too? Do you know that lawyers too, sometimes their own rate of corruption too, they are the ones actually, most of the times bribing judges, going behind and buying judgment and the rest of them. What's your impression of the way lawyers in Nigeria are, most of the times, winding back the hands of time for justice to have even happened many times? Yes,
true. I agree with you, but you also realize that lawyers are also facing trial for, for this type of financial skullduggery. Judges are facing trial for this kind of financial skullduggery. So nobody is actually above the law. So we're taking our time to ensure that we separate, the wheat from the chaff. So, they're facing the music, and the wind of justice is already blowing. And we pray that in the nick of time, we will get to the shores of reality.
So justice is also on trial?
Yeah, justice is on trial. That is to say, no better term for it.
All right, so in closing, I just want to check your own, because we have been asking a lot of people about this. If it is between Buhari and Atiku in 2019, what would be your choice?
Well, if it's between Buhari and Atiku in 2019, and there's no alternative, there's no youth coming, like I told you, I represent a body, League of Patriotic Lawyers, so it would be out of place for me to put my card on the table straight now, except I go back, back to my constituency and interact with them, so that we'll know the person we are going to support. But make no mistake about it, Atiku is well qualified to run for the election. So I'm not even happy when people start to say that, why are you coming back? Buhari ran for about 4 times before he now realized the objective. Buhari and Atiku, they are competent. It's just that their age is a question. So we need to interact with the Hoipule, Akit and Kin and all that before I can give you, how we stand come 2019.
So you don't mind, if yes, you just said that by qualification, Atiku can run.
Yes.
But do you see Nigeria going back to the Egypt of PDP?
Well, like I said before, the enthusiasm, the support, Buhari had 2015 appears to be waning. I do not blame him. Like I told you, he still has the time. He has the integrity mantra going for him. You will see what he came. He was not the richest person there, in that primaries or convention. So if it continues like this, we will really need to reappraise our stand and see the party we are going to vote for. Right now, there are 2 giant parties, the PDP and APC. But we are still talking to ourselves. And but make no mistake, like I said before, Atiku is qualified to contest. Buhari also qualified to contest. Buhari has integrity going for him. Atiku has this question of head hunting, or the quest for technocrats that he has showed before going for him. So they are both strong candidates, and whosoever is going to emerge, we will appraise their credentials and we'll know how to throw a cap into the ring.